Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
We're coming to the end of the month of December, and we're coming to the end of the year of 2024. And now we're going to talk about something going on in the world. Right now, it's kind of cold. It's winter here in Taiwan and other parts of the world. But if you think this is cold, think about those people in Russia, especially Siberia, and especially in the coldest city of the world, Yakutsk.
Oh, yeah. This is a place that really gets to call itself cold. I do like the winter. I would like to be somewhere where it's a little colder than it is in Taipei. I like the snow. I don't like to drive in it, but it can be so beautiful, and I love to feel that cold air. But this place is so cold, I would be miserable. Let's talk about this place and why it's so cool. And there are some interesting things to see there. In fact, tourists enjoy going to visit. But right now, guys, we're going to read through today's lesson first. As we bundle up in thick coats to stay warm during the winter, there is a population that has already adapted to extremely low temperatures. These people live in the remote city of Yakutsk, the coldest city on Earth. Yakutsk is situated in the heart of Siberia, which is the capital of Saha Republic in Russia. This historic mining city began to flourish in the 19th century, following the discovery of gold deposits. Given its construction on permafrost, the average temperature in the city remains below 0 degrees Celsius for over half the year, with winter temperatures dropping to an astonishing minus 50 degrees Celsius. The brief daylight hours and frigid climate have resulted in a distinctive lifestyle. When venturing outside, you need down jackets and an abundance of warm clothing. Interestingly, wearing glasses can pose a hazard, as the metal frames can easily freeze onto the skin. In terms of transportation, public transport is the favored option, considering that warming up a car for several hours is both time-consuming and costly. The local cuisine is also exceptional, with the outdoors acting as a natural freezer, preserving the freshness of fish while rendering fruits scarce. Even the residences are unconventional, frequently constructed on stilts to prevent indoor heat from melting the ground ice, which could cause the building to sink. Despite these challenges, Yakutsk is home to numerous awe-inspiring sights. The Kingdom of Permafrost, a museum established in 2005, is among them. This tourist attraction features ice sculptures and tunnels that remain perpetually frozen. Additionally, it exhibits ancient clothing crafted from bear or deer fur, displaying human ingenuity in coping with severe cold. Daily life in Yakutsk shows how strong and flexible humans can be in the face of extreme cold, revealing the extraordinary beauty that can be found even in the coldest corners of our planet.
Okay, let's dive in and talk about Yakutsk in Siberia. We're talking about life on ice. If you have to live in a place that's really cold, you might actually be living on top of ice. And we're exploring the world's coldest city. Now, I think I had it bad growing up in the Midwest in the USA. Winters were cold, they were long, they would start in December, and they would go through January, February, and most of March. And, of course, it was quite cold, and we kind of got sick of it. Every day we had to wear thick coats and go out and get in the car and get to school and get to work and stuff like that. And we didn't get to play outside that much because it was so darn cold. But you can make the best of it in a cold environment. Especially if you enjoy winter sports. You can go ice skating.
Oh, yeah.
Or you can go cross-country skiing. You can go snowshoeing. And just hiking outdoors and enjoying the great outdoors is a lot of fun, although still it can't match the summer.
I grew up in a place where there was no snow during the winter, but we had the mountains about an hour and a half away. So we would drive up and we would go skiing, which was fun. But we always loved the snow. We thought it was really cool because we didn't have much of it. I know it snows sometimes here in Taiwan, and you can go up into the high mountains, and the kids can really get a thrill seeing what snow looks like. But it is kind of a pain to drive in, I'll be honest. And I don't miss driving in the snow. I've lived where you had to drive in the snow for about 20 years of my life, so I don't miss that. We're going to talk about this wonderful place in Siberia. It's actually located in Russia. I've never even been to Russia, let alone Siberia. Siberia is really far north, in case you haven't looked at a map.
Right. It's considered the coldest part of the world. Everybody says if you're a Russian and you got punished by Stalin or something, they would send you to Siberia.
Stalin's was a former government communist leader. So
right. Some of those evil leaders of the former Soviet Union.
Yeah.
But as we bundle up in thick coats to stay warm during the winter, there is a population or a group of people that has already adapted to extremely low temperatures. Now, of course, here in Taiwan, when it gets cold, people start bundling up. They start wearing more winter clothes. I noticed that those down jackets are quite popular. People wear those quite often in the winter here. I don't wear such a jacket myself. I had one when I was in high school, but I haven't had one since. But in any case, you could wear a thick coat. It's going to keep you warm inside. You want to stay warm during the winter. And you might think it's bad. Oh, it's so cold. Oh, my goodness, I can't stand this cold weather. But, well, you might think of some people in Russia there because they have adapted to extremely low temperatures. They've learned to live with it. Hey, it's cold. We can't just move to Florida. We got to stay here. We got to work all winter long. So we're going to adapt. We're going to get used to it. These are low temperatures, but we can still survive.
When I first came to Taiwan, I had grown up in a desert city, a desert area. So the humidity here was very hard for my body. I had to adapt to the high humidity and how hard it was to breathe. You know, even in the winter, the summer, it was always very humid. And then I got used to it. So if you adapt to something, you kind of get used to it after a while, and then you're fine. Or maybe you don't like the food somewhere. Maybe you go to America or the UK to study, and you can't find any real, genuine Taiwanese food. You have to get used to what they have there, and you have to adapt to it. Otherwise, you're going to starve. So they have already adapted to the extremely low temperatures, and they live in the remote. Remote means far away from everybody and everything. In this remote city of Yakutsk, and it's considered, as Tom said, the coldest city on earth. It's situated in the heart of Siberia. If you say something's in the heart of an area, it's in the middle of that place. So it's right there in the middle of Siberia, and it's the capital of the Saha, or I've heard it pronounced Sakha in Russian, or Saka, sometimes people say in English. So whatever you want there, Saha Republic in Russia.
And again, as you said, it's an historic mining city. If it's mining, that means they go into the ground to bring coal and things like that. We have some mining communities here in Taiwan, or former ones, like Jinguashi, I think, was a former mining town in the mountains there near Jiufen. And yes, indeed, it's a mining city. It's historic, which means it's been that way for a long time, and it began to flourish. It began to get prosperous in the 19th century. They started to have people coming in there and making money, so it was flourishing. Lots of things were going on there, and that was following the discovery of gold deposits. So when word got out that there was gold there, lots of people came there and said, hey, we don't mind the cold. If there's gold here, we are willing to freeze to death to get that gold.
Ooh, a lot of people will do a lot of crazy things if they think there's money in it for them. And gold, of course, is always going to be valuable. It always has been, and it probably always will be. So if people say, hey, there's gold, people run to that place and they want to see if they can find it for themselves. So if you flourish, you do very, very well. People can flourish, means they develop, they grow, they become prosperous, perhaps. But you can also say that plants and animals flourish somewhere where they are doing very well. They're hardy. They have enough food. They are happy. They run around. It's a great place to flourish. If your children are flourishing in school, it means they're doing well. They have friends. They enjoy their classes and their teacher. So the historic mining town, this old mining town in the past, it began to flourish in the 19th century, the 1800s, following the discovery of gold. So given its construction on permafrost, the average temperature in the city remains below 0 degrees Celsius for over half the year. Construction is when you build big things like houses and bridges and homes and things like that. Permafrost, I looked it up. It has to have been frozen. Any kind of soil, ground, water, it has to be frozen for at least 2 years in a row for it to be considered permafrost. Perma meaning permanent, and frost meaning frozen.
Exactly, and of course you see that in northern parts of the world. You can't really grow things in that soil because it's just cold, it's frozen. Maybe some weeds grow in it, I'm not quite sure, but again, it's really, really cold there, and winter temperatures can drop to an astonishing minus 50 degrees Celsius. Some people say negative 50 degrees. I grew up saying minus, so it kind of depends on who you're talking to. I think technically negative is correct because negative is an adjective, so you should say negative 50 degrees. But I don't say that. I say minus 50 degrees. It just sounds more fun.
Yeah,
plus, it's one less syllable.
Yeah, if you're in America and you're listening to the news or you're in a science class, you'll only hear minus. You won't hear negative. You see minus. Minus 20 degrees here. Of course, remember, this is Celsius, which is really, really cold, much colder than if you're saying it's minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit, big deal. So the brief daylight hours, so they don't have many hours of the day that the sun is out, and the frigid means so cold, very cold, have resulted in a distinctive lifestyle. Distinctive means very unique, very different from other things that you've seen. They have a lifestyle that is very unusual, you could say as well.
Right, we'll talk about that lifestyle as our lesson continues, but let's take a break now and listen to our Chinese teacher.
Hello everyone, 我是派老师，今天讲解的是12月30号 Unit 15 Live on Ice。好，今天要介绍的是文艺选填的练习题，要介绍的是世界最寒冷的城市雅库茨克。好，在主题解说前，老师要提醒大家，答题的时候先看看选项哦，看看它们是什么词性。那当然了，有些字不是只有一种词性。不过呢，我们在分析句子以后，有时候看了一下句子就知道这个空格要填什么词性。所以如果你先标出词性，是有助于解题的。好，那我们先直接看第一题了。好，文章第一段呢就提到，当我们穿上厚重的大衣，在冬天保暖的时候，有一群人其实已经适应了非常低的温度。这些人住在地球上最寒冷的城市雅库茨克。好，那我们看到第一题，雅库茨克空格西伯利亚的中心。好，那这个的雅库茨克是地名嘛？后面的介系词片语 in the heart of Siberia， 它表示是地理位置。这一句应该就是要告诉我们说这个雅库茨到底在哪里。所以第一题正确答案应该选 J。Situated 坐落于。接着我们看第二题，这座历史悠久的矿业城市在19世纪因为发现黄金空格而繁荣起来。那空格在介系词 of 之后也只能放名词，考虑到前后文，第二题正确答案应该选 F deposit 沉积层。那表示这座城市呢是因为发现金矿而发迹的。那接着我们看第三题，由于这座城市建在永冻层上，城市的温度一年当中呢，有超过一半的时间都是在摄氏0度以下，冬季温度呢，甚至可以空格惊人的零下50度。句子的主要动词是 remains，with 是介系词，后面所引导的词组是附带说明。如果有动词一定要做变化，我们不能用原形。由于这边呢是跟温度升降有关， 所以第3题正确答案呢就选 A dropping， 表示冬季气温甚至可以降到惊人的零下50度。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, everybody, let's continue and talk about the distinctive lifestyle in Yakutsk in Russia. Okay, so when venturing outside, when you go outside and it's kind of cold and it's kind of difficult to do that, you venture outside. It's like an adventure. Down jackets and an abundance of warm clothing are indispensable. Indispensable means you got to have them, you need them, you can't do without them. And a down jacket is a jacket that has the down feathers of a goose stuffed inside little pockets, and it keeps you quite warm in the winter. And you also have to have an abundance of warm clothing, not just the down jackets, but you probably need to have long underwear and wool socks and gloves and things like that, a scarf, and of course, a hat to keep your head nice and warm.
Right. All those things sound really nice. I was looking up down jackets because I was curious what makes it down. Down is the very softest part of waterfowl, birds that can go on the water like goose, geese, ducks. It's the part of the feather that's closest to their body. It has no quill. It has no hard part in it. It's the soft, fuzzy part of the feathers that they have. It's very, very nice. But it's also, harder to get to. There aren't as many down feathers as there are regular feathers that have the spiky quill in them that kind of sticks out and is kind of hard. And so it's kind of expensive to buy a down jacket. I know they're popular here, Tom, but I've never considered Taiwan to have weather that's cold enough for a down jacket. But I spent a lot of time in places in northern New York, close to Toronto, Canada, where it really gets cold. So, yeah, I think the winters here are quite nice. Sorry, guys. And I love being cold anyway. So the down jackets are very important if you're living in a cold environment. They really keep you warm. They're very insulating. And you need an abundance. A lot of something is an abundance of. And they're saying you need a lot of warm clothing before you even go outside. If something's indispensable, you must have it. You can't do without it.
And you might suffer from frostbite if you don't have a lot of winter clothing, so be careful there. You might lose some fingers or toes if you spend too much time outdoors without the proper warm clothing. And interestingly, wearing glasses can pose a hazard as the metal frames can easily freeze onto the skin. Ooh, that's terrible. I don't like the thought of that. I remember when I had a beard in the winter, I often found that quite painful because your breath can actually freeze on your beard. So when you smile, it kind of pulls the ice apart, and that can really hurt. So I don't like having a beard in the wintertime.
Oh, my goodness. I thought it was supposed to be warmer to have a beard.
You would think so, but it's actually pretty weird. But to actually try to smile when you have your beard all frozen with ice can happen sometimes. But I didn't expect this here. Metal frames can easily freeze onto the skin. Maybe not plastic. So if you're wearing metal frame glasses and you go outside in Yakutsk, be careful because the metal might actually freeze to your skin and it might be very difficult to melt it or get away from your skin.
So how do they get from place to place? Well, it tells us here in terms of transportation. In terms of just means you're talking about that particular subject that follows. In terms of transportation, if you're talking about that, public transport is more of a British phrase than an American phrase, but I'm hearing more and more of it here in Taiwan. A lot of people are now going to the UK for schooling, so that makes sense. So public transport is the favored option. You don't have your own car. You're going to get together with other people in your community and go together in some sort of vehicle. Here in Taiwan, we've got the MRT. We've got a great bus system, which is really nice, I must say. It can get you from almost any place here, at least in the city, to places that are close to right to the center or the heart of the city for a pretty cheap price, I must say, pretty quickly. So public transport in this particular area of the world is the favored option. Option is a choice. If it's favored, it's something that someone prefers over something else. So that makes sense because they give the reason why in the following part of the sentence, Tom.
Right. It's a favored option to take public transport when you consider that warming up a car for several hours is both time-consuming and costly. I don't really think it's going to take several hours. I remember in the wintertime when we wanted to warm up the car, we'd let it run for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And even though it's cold in Yakutsk, I doubt you're going to need 2 or 3 hours to warm up the car. But still, that can burn fuel and it can take time. So it's costly, it's time-consuming, and people just say, the heck with it. I'm just taking the bus because the bus is already warm. I don't have to do that myself. And the local cuisine is also exceptional. It's interesting. It's unique. You ought to try it. With the outdoors acting as a natural freezer, preserving the freshness of fish while rendering fruits scarce. So that's interesting. It's really cold outside, so you could actually keep fish frozen by leaving it outside. Isn't that interesting?
Makes sense, doesn't it? You don't even have to own your own freezer, which could actually save you some money. It preserves the freshness. It keeps that fish that you have fresh, which is nice, while at the same time rendering or making fruits scarce. Render here just is used to talk about making something happen. You can render someone speechless by saying something that causes them to just not have any words that they want to say. So render means to cause, or to be, or to become, to make, to perform, to do. It's a verb we use quite often, to render. Here, it's rendering. That cold is rendering or making fruits scarce. Hard to have fruits in such a cold climate. And fruits would be destroyed by being put in a freezer, usually. So, yeah, it's kind of sad. I know I can put some of my fruit in the freezer, like blueberries actually go very well in the freezer for a while. But not all fruits. You certainly can't put an orange in the freezer and then eat it later. Even the residences are unconventional. Residence is the place where people live. So their homes are unconventional. Unconventional means something you don't see. It's not traditional. They're untraditional. You could say unconventional. Frequently, they're constructed or built on something called stilts. Those are long poles that you'll often see, say, in Thailand, even Hong Kong. Sometimes they'll build things on stilts if the homes are in the water. They want to build them up higher. So, yeah, they're constructed on stilts. Why do they need to do that?
Well, if they let the buildings sit on the ground, the indoor heat might melt the ground ice, which again is permafrost. And if they do that, this could cause the building to sink. So you don't want to do that. So in some cases, or in a lot of cases, they do build their houses or their residences on stilts so that the heat from the house does not melt the ground. Interesting. Moving on now to the next paragraph here. It says, despite these challenges, even though they have these challenges, Yakutsk is home to numerous awe-inspiring sights. So it's probably still a very fun place to visit. The Kingdom of Permafrost, a museum established in 2005, is among them. So yeah, there's a museum there you can go check out. I should also remind everybody that it's very cold there in the winter and it's dark there in the winter, but during the summer, hey, it's going to be daylight all day long, so that might be interesting as well. And of course, if you're that far north, you might get to see the northern lights.
Ooh, that would be wonderful. So we've got this museum you can go see called the Kingdom of Permafrost. That's a cool thing. This is a tourist attraction that features ice sculptures, of course. That would be the perfect place for ice sculptures because they would never melt. And tunnels that remain perpetually frozen. Perpetually means never ending, always frozen. Additionally, it exhibits ancient clothing from long ago, crafted from bear or deer fur. That would keep you warm, displaying human ingenuity in coping with severe cold. Ingenuity means cleverness, creativity, ideas that are really quite new and innovative. So they have to cope with severe cold. Severe means extreme. So these are some of the ways that they cope with cold. And in this museum, they're showing you over history what they've done to survive in this particular place.
Sounds like a lot of fun, and daily life in Yakutsk shows how strong and flexible humans can be in the face of extreme cold, revealing the extraordinary beauty that can be found even in the coldest corners of our planet. So yes, you can see that humans can exist in the face of extreme cold. They're able to survive. Those Russians are really tough. And of course, beauty can be found anywhere. You don't always have to go to tropical countries to see beautiful things. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation. Here comes our Chinese teacher.
接着请看第4题，前句提到当空格外面你需要羽绒外套还有大量的保暖衣物，副词子句和主要子句的主词都是 you， 因此副词子句是 when you 加动词 outside。由于主词一样，所以省略了。我们可以从语义判断，副词子句应该就是在说当你出门在外，所以第4题答案选 H venturing 冒险出去。紧接着是第5题 the 定冠词后面一定要有名词，而这里考量前面的句子提到戴眼镜，所以空格应该是选择 G frames 镜框。整句话的意思是戴眼镜外出可能会有危险哦，因为金属镜框很容易呢会冻在皮肤上。那再来我们看第6题 both 怎么样 and costly。 both and 是双词连接词，前后两边词性要一样。那因为 costly 是形容词，表示很花钱，所以第6题的答案也要找一个形容词。考量前后文语义，第6题应该选 E time consuming 耗费时间的。那表示在交通方面，大众运输是最受欢迎的选择，因为如果开车要暖车要好几个小时，非常耗时也很贵。接着看第7题，空格前面的动词 render 用法跟 make 一样，表示造成。加了受词以后再加一个形容词，这个形容词就变成受词的补语。比方说 The rains rendered his escape impossible。 因为下雨，所以呢他就不可能可以逃走了。所以第7题的空格我们找个形容词，考量前后文，所以第7题答案选 B scarce 稀少，表示当地的饮食也很特别，户外就像是天然冷冻库，可以让鱼类保持新鲜。不过呢，也因此水果相当稀少。接着我们看第8题，空格可以填形容词，放在 be 动词 are 之后，那就可以当作主词的 residences 的补语。前面的句子在描述雅库茨克饮食很特别很独特，那这个句子呢提到的是住宅，那通常他们房子会盖在支柱上面，为了呢要防止室内的热会让呢地面的冰层融化，从而导致呢建筑物就会沉下去。所以从前后文我们可以推测这个地方的住宅呢很特别，不同寻常，所以第8题的答案呢就选 D unconventional 不同寻常，跟一般的惯例是不一样的。再来我们看第9题，尽管面临了这些挑战，雅库茨克这个地方仍然拥有许多空格景点。这里呢要修饰后面的名词 sights， 也就是景观的意思，我们要找个形容词，因此第9题答案选 I all inspiring， 就是令人赞叹的。类似的形容词还有 breathtaking。 紧接着第10题，题干前一句提到这座建于2005年的博物馆，主要的卖点是冰雕还有隧道。接着就是题干，空格前面呢提到展示古老的服饰，那空格后面呢就讲到熊皮、鹿皮在人类呢在应对严寒方面的智慧。提到了这些，我们从前后文就可以推断这些服饰是从动物的毛皮，那我们把它拿来所制作而成的，而且呢是可以帮助我们御寒的。 因此第10题答案呢，我们就选过去分词 C crafted。crafted 就表示呢是由什么所制成的。好，以上呢就是我们对这篇文意选项所做的解题。希望同学多多练习。I'll see you next time.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our lesson for today. Hopefully, we have inspired you to book your tickets now and head to Siberia. It might be a very unique vacation. And also remember, everybody, to check out our content on YouTube and Facebook. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.